Hi.
Do tell us about your latest piece. You're writing about, among other things, Henry Kissinger.
Yes, he celebrated his 100th birthday on Saturday, which is quite astonishing. And what's more astonishing, as far as I'm concerned, is not just his advanced age, but the fact that he's actually changed his mind. And he's changed his mind about Ukraine. He started off the war saying that really the West was asking for it by holding open the prospect of NATO at the Bucharest summit in 2008. And this is what made Russia angry and therefore contributed to the Russian aggression. Now he says NATO that NATO should take Ukraine, that Ukraine should be a member of NATO. And this is very timely. There's a NATO summit in July. NATO foreign ministers are meeting next week, and they want to put forward various ideas, including a Ukrainian NATO council, so to prepare Ukraine for the kind of structures that NATO involves. But I'm a skeptic. I'm a skeptic about Kissinger, broadly speaking, but especially about China and about Russia. And he said the right thing, Ukraine should join NATO, but he said it probably for the right reasons, which is he's essentially wants to calm down both Russia and China, and he's hyper aware that both of those countries feel humiliated for different reasons. And I think this is just the wrong way for Western diplomacy to go. We can't be over fretting, over anxious about whether we've offended Russia in one way or another, or indeed China. So the article was a discussion of how this then should evolve and what really is the toxic relationship at the moment. Is it between West and East, or is it actually between China and Russia?
So what is the right way to go about this? You think that one way or another Kissinger's got to the right position, which is Ukraine edging towards NATO. How should the reasoning go?
Well, the reasoning, Kissinger thinks the reasoning is we've got to let them in NATO now because, and Russia should accept that because we're the ones who will control Ukraine and make sure that they don't, and make sure that Zelensky doesn't bomb Russia.
Yeah.
And I think that is the wrong position. We don't really, the whole point of NATO is not to exert massive control over individual states. It's to find common ground and common positions. And this is what the alliance is about. So I think what will happen is that we will move over the next year closer and closer to a Ukrainian membership. Basically, the issue is there, and again, although I don't like Kissinger, I keep on having to quote him. Kissinger says, by the end of this, Ukraine will be the best armed country in Europe, and it will be the most strategically immature. And these two things together are a problem, supposedly for Russia, and we have to reassure Russia that this is not going to lead to war.
Yeah.
But we can find other ways of reassuring Russia that there's not going to be a war, and actually maybe it's not the big thing anyway. It's for Russia to get over its fears and to work out how to develop friendly relations in its neighborhood, and it's something that they haven't yet come to grips with. So
the best way to deal with Russia is through strength, because that is what Russia, that's their practice, and that's what they understand very clearly, whatever else.
Yeah, it's to show that Western military technology can outpace them and outfight them and outshoot them at every corner of the way, so that any country that identifies with us, with NATO, will feel safer.
And does the same argument then go for China, looking at what they'd be facing if they were to move on Taiwan, for example?
Yes, it's China and Taiwan that really makes everything toxic, because China claims to have this limitless friendship with Putin, but is actually secretly cheating Russia a bit. I mean, it's competing with Russia on different ways, and it's not being absolutely straight with Russia. And so that's all going to fall apart quite soon, and Russia should stop, throwing tantrums about what NATO may or may not do, and watch its back.
Let me just ask you while you're here, Roger, the drone strikes on Moscow. Look, there were just a handful of drones which didn't do any significant damage. At the end of the day, what's the significance of that for you?
Well, something is going on. It's to do with finding range, I think. It's to see how far the drone technology that Ukraine has got can do, how accurate it can be targeted, and its way of testing the Russian air defense system. The Russian attack on Kiev, for example, is quite different in a way. It's basically trying to overwhelm the Western air defense systems around Kiev, and get the Ukrainians to use massive amounts of very, very expensive Patriot missiles, so basically the West lose patience. But the Ukrainians are operating not really with our knowledge, although there is some intelligence exchange, which will increase, by the way, when they get closer to NATO. It's more to see what can be done, and basically create a sense of anxiety within Russia.